Hello, good evening and welcome to UPfront. Tonight, we focus on the looming power crisis that threatens to disrupt the country. The John Mahama government has established, perhaps on its second day in office, a crack team of experts tasked with delivering a comprehensive roadmap by the close of the day. This is to avert the situation. This urgent committee was formed under the directive of the Chief of Staff, Julius Deborah, in response to warnings from those within, including former Deputy Power Minister John Jinapor. He has attributed the potential crisis to fuel shortages, a claim further underscored today by Great Coast's Director of Systems Operations, Frank Orchel. We've already heard the former government say, as in a former power minister or energy minister, Herbert Crapper, indicate that this does not reflect the facts on the ground, and the NDC should not be given excuses. Well, as the nation awaits anxiously to hear from this committee, which has up to the end of this day to deliver its proposals, the latest developments, including John Dramani Mahama's confidence in his ability or government's own way to rise to the occasion and tackle this challenge head on, is what we are actually dealing with tonight. Joining me for this conversation are Executive Director of the Africa Center for Energy Policy, Benjamin Boache. Nana Amoasi is also the Executive Director of the Institute for Energy Studies, and also joining this conversation is Chairman of the Energy Sector of the Association of Ghana Industries, Kwame Jantua. Let me start with you, Ben. This claim that there is some looming power crisis, which was basically told us by John Jinapor, is it fact or fiction?
Thanks, Raymond, for having me, and good evening to Mr. Jantua and the rest of the panel. I don't know whether Nana is on. Yeah, I mean, from where we sit, we have always contended that the energy sector, is fragile. It is heavily reliant on government budget. So at any point in time, that government is unable to cough out money to be able to buy fuel or pay some of the liabilities in the sector. We will face challenges. And recurrently we face those challenges, some of which we are not pre-informed or made aware, or in some instances even denied when at the full glare of the public, we know that there are challenges. When your light is off, you know it's off, and people will say it is not. So for me, those are the challenges of the power sector, and we will continue to have those challenges, liquidity challenges, as long as we fail to address the fundamental issues of improving efficiency, improving management efficiency of the sector, to make it run like a business. And that's what we failed to do. So I'm not surprised that government is unable to procure fuel. In fact, I have really been against government always buying fuel instead of making sure that power generated, transmitted, and distributed will translate into revenue to pay the value chain, and also push government to step back. If we had an industry that was running outside the control of government, we wouldn't need politicians to banter over how the power sector is managed and who is providing electricity for us. So we need to move to that level of efficiency so that we can be insulated from these kinds of announcements and realities that confronts us once in a while. So for me, I'm not surprised. Even as we speak, some people may be in darkness because of how secretive and poorly managed the sector has been. So we know that there's going to be a shutdown of the pipeline. What is actually going to happen is that they're cleaning it. So they will push the gas in one direction and all the laterals will be shut down. So if you are in Tema, you are in Togo, you are in Benin, you cannot access the West Africa gas pipeline. The pigs will move all the way, and the receiver is in Takoradi. So you have to maintain the pressure in the pipeline all the way through to Takoradi. So the gas can only flow to Takoradi. What that means is that you're not going to have gas for power generation in Tema. And therefore, contingency measures have to be afoot to ensure that we have other alternatives. And fortunately, we have dual fuel plants in Tema to be able to convert from gas-fired to liquid fuels. And that is where the contention has been. Do we have enough stock to be able to, power some of those generation systems when gas valves are shut from the 20th in the east? And that, for me, is where the contention is. And the reality is that we don't have enough stock for us to go through the period, almost 28 days of shutdown in the east. So we need to find ways to bridge that deficit that may occasion. And for me, that is the task ahead. How do you do it? Whether fuel was procured and stored for you or not, there's a new sheriff in town with a responsibility. And I think that, the shift that we saw at the polls, you cannot even isolate the power sector from it. So they are all part of the problem that created the kind of shift that we saw at the polls. So you are handed with a challenge, you have to deal with it. And how we deal with it in a more sustainable manner is my focus at this point. Because as for these blips, even if you have fuel in the sector, all the tanks full, you will still have these blips and challenges in the energy sector once the fundamentals are not checked. And the way to deal with it sustainably is for us to fix the fundamentals of making sure that revenues can be generated to pay the value chain.
Give me a second. Let me keep you on hold for now. And I need to quickly switch to the Ablekuma North constituency. And we know that that's the outstanding constituency when it comes to declaration of results. So I see on your screen there Dr. Siwo Kwaku, who's Director of Training now of the Electoral Commission. We can hear him.
Good evening once again. I think it is out of frustration that he's saying what he said. And I understand him, but I don't think that's the end of the road. We'll get him back. I want to put on record that the Commission has no interest at all in who becomes the Member of Parliament. But we should be very careful of the precedent we set. It is the voter who decides who should be their leaders, be it presidential or parliamentary. We recruited our officials to go to the polling stations. They went there, and you, the media, you have a lot of the videos where some of our officers were assaulted. I think on Monday, we brought two ladies. One of them said that she was assaulted, that's why he has to run away. Today, the lady we brought, we took us hectic time to convince her to come that there will be security for her. So what we normally do is that we ask them not to come here direct because they can be accosted on the road. So we ask them to report at the EC, the new office. Then we will bring them with ourselves with police escort. Now the allegation is that we took them there for them to be schooled by the commission. They mentioned the chairperson's name, Dr. Bosman's name, and if you ask any of them, they didn't meet these people. When they can, we give them place to sit. Myself and the arrows will just prepare them that they should get there. I said, all that we want to come and say here is the truth. And the truth is the truth. Fortunately, all the people we have brought here are other Muslims or Christians. And the foundation of their faith or our faith is the truth. Nobody has cooked anything. Now, we brought 6 people. 4 of them had validated or confirmed the figures. The gentleman who came just now initially didn't want to come. And the irony of it is that he teaches in the same school with the return officer.
Is that?
The guy who just he teaches, he said he will never come. So we gave up, but later we came and so initially he said that he cannot confirm it now, but you can confirm it. Now he came back and said that he has confirmed the figures for the candidates. But as for the rejected one, There were no rejected ballots, so that one you cannot accept it. That is the story. But I say that it's unfortunate. Because I want people who can stand by their work. This work was done less than a month now. Once you see your handwriting, you see your figures, nobody is putting a gun on your head. Tell the truth, and the truth will stand the test of time. So if this is what you said, we cannot force him to accept everything. But at least all of you heard that. For the votes for the candidates, they are correct. But that of the rejected ballot is what he is contesting. We'll go back. The other guy said that he can also not deny or affirm. We'll give ourselves time. There's another person who's a lady. He said that even if you bring Caterpillar, he will not come back because of what they have gone through. And my sadness is that if we are doing this to our own people, 2024 is not the only time we'll have election. We'll have election in 2028. Are we sure that we'll have dedicated people to come and serve Mother Ghana? Truth will always be the truth. So that's what I would say.
So, actually, is there anything that you can compel this lady you are referring to come and then confirm this document for us? Because it appears the entire country has been held to ransom now.
Even the returning officer himself is saying that he will not come back again. So let's solve that problem. Like I said in the morning, I personally never knew any of them till I met them here. I never knew them. So the lady you are talking about, I don't know her. So how can I go and compare somebody I've never met before? It is only the presiding officer, the returning officer who recruited and trained them. So he's the one we can use. But if he himself is giving up, then where are we?
Can't they be compelled to do the needful because they were employed and paid? The work is not done yet. We need to finish this work. Can't they be
let me also put the question back to you. If you force him here and he comes and says that I can neither confirm nor deny them, what will we do? So the person should come on his own volition that I'm coming to speak the truth. Then he comes and he speaks the truth. Let him take it back to Domi Kwabenya. Domi Kwabenya, people are setting that as an example. The officer did not complete any form. It was when he finished and went home that he said that he didn't get the pink sheet for that, but he had the one for training. So he called the MPP agent. They said that on our tally sheet, we have the results there. So he WhatsApped the results to him. So it is a lady, to him. So to her. Then we invited the parties. NDC brought 2 of the carbon sheets. It was not contested. We accepted because the return said, then not this return, because that one has also different. He said that he's comfortable that he use them. So the outstanding one, we used the tele card from the NDC to complete because nobody contested that one. So that's the story of the Kwabenya. But here, once the sheets are here and the 2 of them are saying, I accept part, I don't accept part, these are my signatures, these are my handwriting, and the rest. It puts us in a very awkward position. But we cannot force anybody to come and make any claim. That one will be bad on our side.
But said we're almost having a rerun at Domin Kwabenya.
We have not concluded anything. I've told you, even the return officer himself, he said he will not come here again. You have no address that you are talking of.
Just a quick one. Just a quick one, Doc.
We have finished our work here for today. We are going to inform the commission what has transpired. Commission will have to engage the return officer. Based on what happens and the rest, they will know the way forward. Because the return officer himself is so frustrated. The irony of it is that he stays with the people, both the MPP and NDC people, in their constituency. Personally, even at the matter we are talking about, I don't know even where it is, let alone knowing the presiding officer. So he recruited the people and trained them. So we need him. And that's what we should all be talking to him, that he should not be out of frustration, give up. Technically, they were supposed to be 3. Return officers and 2 deputies. Have you seen any of the 2 here? You haven't. So let's ask ourselves, why are they not coming?
Doc,
that's what I'm saying, that I fear for our future elections. I fear for our future elections. But truth will always be the truth, no matter how you twist the facts.
Just briefly, the journey from wherever these presiding officers are coming from to your headquarters could have been the same journey to this place where they'll be protected by the security here, but you decided to, just briefly, you decided to send them to your headquarters and bus them here, which has given grounds for the allegation of you compromising them before they get. If you have the opportunity again, will you come them there and bus them?
Again. The reason is that when they come here individually, they will have to be interviewed by the police. The police don't know them, right? But when they are coming to our office, there's no barrier, there's nothing. So they will come there, we'll pick them. All the elected officers and the rest, we all go there. Then we are given buses and escorted by the police. So if you say they should come here individually, then they will come and confront the police and whoever they will confront. Don't forget that if the person comes here and the person is attacked, it's also on us, right? So we bring them there so that under police escort, all of us can come and do our work.
So this process has been suspended now?
Did you hear the return officer? If you heard it, then I can't answer the question, unless you are not here. Okay. Then when we get it back, we will talk to you. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
What do you have to say? Okay, so gradually we are getting there. We have 281 polling stations in Ablekuma North. Gradually, 219, 200, it was left with 62. And by the grace of God, truth was stand. In the first place, I appreciate the justice system that we should go and collate. And I am firm. I want to say on record that I will fight this till end because I know I won. I have all my 281 pink sheets scanned. I did it immediately before the gentleman, the Kalamu gentleman, who came and tore everything from the Electoral Commission. He tore everything from the Electoral Commission. You can witness what was going on right now. He took one pink sheet and tore it, and it was taken from him. That has been the character in the constituency. Now, what it is that gradually we are left with 3 polling stations. By the grace of God, I'm leading comfortably. And that is the fear.
With how many votes?
I'm leading with how many votes? The total is 414 votes. Right now, I'm leading with 300 and something votes. And so, what it is that they know I have won. They are aware. The truth can never be hidden. It will definitely come out. Now, the gentleman who came, I don't know him. They also don't know him. Well, this morning, I learned some of them were calling the presiding officers not to come. And so that is what I heard. But right now, the gentleman went and came back. Now, I want to put this on record. He said, the handwriting is my handwriting. The signature is my signature. The figures are correct. But as for one rejected ballot, he can't confirm. And he remembers that there was no rejected. It doesn't exclude the truth. The truth we are looking for is the figures. If the figure is correct, which he confirmed 4 times, that as for the figure is correct, my handwriting is correct, the signature is my signature. But he remembers that there was no rejected ballot. That is 1. 2, the other paper that was put before him from the NDC has been altered. And you can see clearly that was original pink sheet from Electoral Commission. Now, the other one from them has been altered. And you can see that the figure, they've altered the figure, leaving the guy's signature and everything. So the guy said, with this original one, I did it. I can confirm. But with the rejected one, I remember there was no rejected ballot. My conclusion is that we started from 281, right? I'm still leading, and we are left with 3. The 3 pink sheets that are left, I'm leading. Even the pink sheets, the 3 pink sheets alone, I'm leading over 100. And so whatever it is, however it will be, patience reigns, we will definitely get there. And finally, Ekuya Owusu-Friye will be the MP elect in Ablekuma. There was so much lawlessness yesterday in our constituency. Whether Ekuya has won or not, give it to our candidate. Where from this? We are setting a bad precedent that will take generation on in a negative way. Because if 2028, we're going for election, and the NPP also gets up to say, look, this is what you did the last time. We are going to repeat or do the same thing. Do you think it will go well for us? No.
Do you suspect someone put the rejected ballot number there?
No. Probably my thinking is that probably the gentleman, since he confirmed everything on the paper, probably he might have forgotten one rejected. Probably, that's my mind. Yes.
So colleagues, and so far, thank you very much for your presence. I think that my candidate has said it all. If you look at it, and very soon, the party is going to publish our copies of the pin sheets that were given. And you see the names of those presiding officers and the agents for the various parties, and the numbers attributed to all. We are not going to overstretch it. All that we are saying is that truth is the truth. And come what may, if you look at collation from 281 pink sheets, all indications are clear. UPfront won. We will be patient. We will hear from the EC when they want to come out. We will comply. We will hear from the EC. The decision is the EC. We have the pink sheet. We will publish for you to see. Thank you very much.
So that's the latest development from Ablekuma North, where it is still inconclusive. You heard there the outstanding matters that ought to be resolved before the results are declared and finally gazetted, before a representative for the constituency goes to the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana, which has already been sworn in. Of course, they can be subsequently sworn in. So the EC there, represented by Dr. Sirbo Kwaku, who is Director of Training, says he will take the feedback from the ground, including what the return officer is saying, back to the commission for a decision to be taken on the matter. We return to the conversation about the looming power crisis. And I do still have with me in this conversation, we're expecting feedback from the crack committee, which is up to the end of today, to tell us what's the way forward in averting this crisis. Already, Benjamin Boachi with the Africa Center for Energy Policy is with me. Also joining this conversation is Nana Amoasi. Nana Amoasi is with the Institute for Energy Studies and also the chairman of the energy sector of the Association for Ghana Industries. Yes, Mr. Kwame Jantua is part of this all-important conversation. Forgive me, Benjamin, but you were the one wrapping up on the note as to what is really happening and whether indeed we are having some crisis in the next couple of days. And I want you to particularly address this point. The member of parliament for Yape Kusogo, John Jinapo, was categorical. He said we didn't have stock for even up to 2 days and that was problematic. But we know, as you have explained, that this shutdown is happening on the 20th. Is there indeed a crisis that ought to be dealt with immediately, that requires the kind of response we are having on the ground today, or this is much ado about nothing?
I think from what I heard him say, he was reflecting on the situation come the 20th of January. That's when we will actually need the liquid fuels to be able to power the thermal enclave power plants, because there will be no gas in those areas. So if we don't have enough stocks, then there has to be contingency measures to make sure we can procure some liquids. The point has been made that HF4 probably easier to procure. It's complicated with LCO, which is light crude oil, which will be required by Sun Power to be able to utilize, because it takes a longer period of time to source it. And then when it comes in also, you have to test it, send it to the labs. And regrettably, the Sun Power situation is like that when they have to test it. They have to send it to either Belgium or Germany to test the product and bring the results. So that takes upwards 2 weeks, 2-3 weeks, sometimes 4 weeks, to be able to do that. And that means that if we don't aggressively pursue some sources, we may not be able to bring that power plant regardless of the efforts that will be put forth. So those are the challenges that you do have. But I'm hoping that with the committee that sat today, there will be some contingency measures. There will be some calls to some suppliers that can quickly bring in at least HFO that can be used by some of the plants. I would discourage the use of diesel because it tends to be expensive. It will not be recovered. Government will waste so much money in that space. So they should do what is possible. If we can't get enough, you just give timetable, let people plan their lives so that we don't rack up a lot of debt with this situation that we have on our hands.
That question is what I'll be asking you when I come back to you, Ben. Forgive me. You just mentioned what many referenced. We have a cycle in this country where we create an emergency, then prefer emergency solutions, and ends up then creating a lot of debt in our system. Then we introduce that taxes or whichever system to try and defray the debt, and it is becoming intransigent for a very long time. In fact, Dr. Bawumia still referenced that as one of the main reasons why we had some debt crisis on our hands. I will come to you on that, but let me bring in Amoasi to this point. Is this something that should have been foreseen and dealt with? Now, the thinking within the ranks of the current government is that it could have been a ploy because they sounded the alarm within committee meetings at transition level, and they were guaranteed there's a solution on the horizon. Do you think this was some form of act of sabotage?
Well, Raymond, thanks for having me, and good evening to your viewers. And humbly, let me do a correction. As it's not Institute for Energy Studies, it's Institute for Energy Security.
Okay.
Okay, so to the point, whether it's an act of sabotage or negligence or whatever, at least government knew very well that it had a program at hand with respect to pipeline pigging or inspection as far back as October 2024. And it asked that they defer that very exercise to January. So for government, I'm sure it's clear in its mind that there's such an exercise coming up. And if the exercise should come up, we'll have a restriction in the supply of gas to the Eastern Corridor, being Tema, for plants like AXA, Sempower, Asogli, and Tema power plants. The plan should have been to put in place alternative fuel. For that, government, I'm sure, knew very well and understood clearly that it is in power up until January 7, 2025. And so as part of the transition arrangements, that should have been relayed to the incoming government that we have today. And if the government in power now says that they probed and asked the past government to probably shed light on that and put in an arrangement, and they failed to do that, then this is clearly an act of sabotage. There's no way you can describe this than to say that, yes, they were negligent, and if you were deliberate in putting in place the fuel, it is good. But if you are deliberate in not putting it in place, then you have sabotaged the system. However, progress has to be made. For us at IES, these are some of the reasons for which Ghanaians chose the NDC, and overwhelmingly, they won the hearts of Ghanaians. And so there is no room for excuses here. We understand the problem. They equally understand. The only thing that is left is to provide solution and deal with it. And so that is good. Let's go with that and let's look for a solution, a long-lasting one or an immediate one, then a long-lasting one, because it will not be the last time that we'll be confronted with pipeline inspection or maintenance.
Now, let me bring in Mr. Jantua. You have been in this sector for quite a while. does this bring you some deja vu? We've always had conversations in this state. Then this is almost always how we commence every single power crisis we've had on our hands. Is it that sometime you are being told it's an act of God, or somebody failed to do something, or poor planning? Whichever combination of factors, we always end up with some terrible crisis on our hands. Can we afford another one?
Raymond, good evening, and good evening to all your listeners, and a happy new year to everyone. You know, Raymond, I think the one thing we should learn not to do is to politicize energy. The politics comes to play in. So, for instance, you saw what was put up by the former Minister of Energy on his Facebook, that the current government should go ahead and keep the lights on because they kept the lights on. That is not what Ghanaians want to listen to. That's not what Ghanaians want to hear. He should be able to tell us, yes, we were able to procure to this point. We have X, we have Y. We decided to tell WAPCO to defer their pigging to January because of A, B, C, D, E. And because of that, this is where we are. We would suggest this is how we should procure the fuel that we require. Because we were told this morning on your show that the finance minister, the previous finance minister, had agreed to give an amount of 70 million to the Minister of Energy to procure. Now, the procurement hasn't come till date. And you ask the question, why? You ask the question, why was it deferred? Nobody has been able to answer those questions. Raymond, I see this thing in a clean situation to be finance, planning, availability of raw material, and communication. We cannot go back to a situation where in the past, government holds on and holds on and holds on and does not communicate to the ordinary Ghanaian what is happening, because it's down to nitty-gritties. Let's say the Ghanaian would tend to do their monthly shopping. In that monthly shopping, they have to freeze some of the produce or products they buy. If they know exactly what is happening, especially where communication is up to date, then they can also plan how they do their monthly or weekly shopping, which helps them save money. But the politics comes in and it covers things that need to be done to help the ordinary Ghanaian to also work through a looming, probably, crisis. So I am looking to a situation where the technical team that has been set up by the new government to be able to communicate effectively whatever results that come out of their deliberations. If it's a finance thing, and if finance is not going to be available, they need to tell us what the options are so that Ghanaians can also work with them. Look, the votes that we had in this last election are votes of the people. The people are trying to tell government we need more transparency, we need more accountability, and we need more communication. This is a test of that with the new government. And the way they have quickly put a team together, I think it's a good thing, but they should make sure to put the politics aside. Whatever the MPP did is in the past.
Okay.
You cannot come back to it. So let's see how we solve the problem. Now, This is towards probably January 20th. If we can sort something out before January 20th, let's communicate and communicate it effectively so that people can also plan their lives.
Now, Mr. Boakye, what are the real alternatives available to government at this time? What options and what timelines can they reasonably work within, Ben?
I think between now and 20th, they should make progress to get some HFOs to at least run the power plants that would consume that, while sort of arrangements are made to get LCO for SenPower. Fortunately, SenPower has some stocks of 170,000 barrels, so that could perhaps do up to 10 days or so. If they split it into two, that means you're doubling the time to about 20 days. So you could do that arrangement, generate some power from Sen Power, get liquid fuels for AXA to run, and then you also, I mean, we need to know the status of WAPCO. When I saw Grid Coast projections, WAPCO was ostensibly missing, and I was shocked why WAPCO was not in the mix. So if bring WAPCO also on to consume the gas that will be glutton in Takoradi, we should be able to reduce the projected deficit quite significantly, and perhaps move around the deficit and communicate to the public for us to plan our lives.
Now,
but one point around why the past government couldn't procure the fuel. I mean, I hear your question about whether it was sabotage. But, as a political economy enthusiast, I doubt a procurement opportunity, any politician will miss it and say, I will not, I want to sabotage the next government. I think there could be other dynamics around it. There were signals to businesses that you can deal with the outgoing government, and people will be worried to actually engage in such a major multi-million dollar transaction.
Okay.
Those dynamics could also be feeding into why they couldn't get it, especially when they had promised that they would source the fuel. We could look at all those dynamics, capacity to actually engage at that multi-million, because nobody want to commit money, their products and not get paid, at that scale. So those could be some of it. But the reality also was that we knew ahead of time that this exercise will be carried out. It was supposed to have been in October, perhaps early planning, which could also be linked to the liquidity challenges in the sector. I mean, government has just so much at all times because of how dependent ECG is on government resources. And those are things that we have to deal with going forward for us to stop talking about it. I'm not sure we were even required to come and speak if it wasn't government managing the power sector and it was efficient private sector treated as business. We would see power on and not this recurrent conversation around power cuts, government investments in the energy sector. And I'm hoping that as part of the conversation on that will be coming from the committee that sat today, will be a long-term strategy to deal with these problems so that we're not going to be doing back and forth for another 4 years.
Well, that's an interesting perspective there. There are questions that many have started asking about what the germane issues are when it comes to policy direction. For example, it's been asked that what are the security of supply arrangements for the emergency liquid fuels? Are there contracts with whom? Are there penalties for non-performance to protect national interest? Are these legitimate questions?
Absolutely. How do you procure this? I mean, at this level, you can't even fault anybody because it's an emergency situation. And of course, emergency procurement will be done. But we need to plan carefully going forward to be able to procure ahead of time, revert to competitive procurement. That used to be the case and not the sole source procurement for fuel. But energy security at all times is your ability to have the fuel close to, the point of use. And how do we get gas at all times? It's really for us the energy security consideration that we need to look at. We had plans for LNG at a time when we didn't need LNG. And the time that we need it, we don't actually have it. So how do we get gas at all times so that we are not always switching to the more expensive fuels when we do know that with the current economic situation, businesses are struggling. You cannot pass on some of these adjustments in levies to businesses and individuals. So you need to stay with the cheapest fuel at all times. A way to do it at a policy level is to optimize domestic gas production, which has stalled over a period of time. We have some discoveries that can be brought on stream. We need to make sure they come on stream quickly. But most importantly, you need to fix ECG. Because if nobody's assured that they will get their money, all your plans and wishes will not materialize. And if
I need you to hold on a second.
and get.
You have brought in the Electricity Company of Ghana into the conversation. Why do you think fixing perhaps the main issues which we are discussing here is to do with supply of fuel and on a broader scale, cheaper fuel to be able to run consistently? What's that got to do with ECG?
ECG is the one who's supposed to pay for the fuel. We are getting government to go and buy fuel because ECG doesn't have money. That's because the power they consume, they don't pay for it. So if you give ECG, for example, 1 megawatt of power today, they can only account for about 48% of it.
Okay.
What that means is that, more than 52% of the power is unaccounted for. So government always has to pick up that bill and now pay the suppliers and the value chain. And that is not sustainable. We keep sacrificing all that we have to keep the light on, to do the politics with it. And that's what I'm saying, that it's not sustainable. We need to fix that. And once you fix that, all these procurement issues that we have, ECG would have been able to guarantee the supply of fuel ahead of time. Even when the WAPCO said we're going to shut down, ECG would have picked it up because they have the balance sheet, they have the resources, the revenue streams to be able to, securitize the supply of fuel without any political intervention whatsoever. So that is the weakest link, and we need to really fix that.
But ECG has said that it has supplied fuel before or paid for same in times past.
They were doing procurement, and that is a bigger problem.
Okay.
And it's even part of the reason why we are struggling today. Some of the contracts that don't have liquid fuel today, they were supposed to be energy contracts. What that means is that we only buy energy from them. So AXA, for example, if there was a remain energy contract, all we needed from them was for them to sell us megawatts of power and not worried about procurement of fuel. It is ECG that converted these contracts to a tolling arrangement. So we give them fuel for them to generate and we pay them capacity. So if you don't get money to pay them to generate power, two things. You are paying them for idle capacity, and you also don't have money to go and buy the fuel. But if they were energy companies just producing energy and we buying the energy, we would have bought the power and paid them for power. When they don't generate, we don't pay them anything because they wouldn't have generated. But now, when these companies are idling because we don't have fuel for them, we have to pay them for staying idle because it is our responsibility to give them fuel to generate. We need to fix these policy inconsistencies in the sector.
Let me bring in Nana Amoasi. The question on the minds of many, are we going to cough out more? Is it going to be more expensive to fix this impending crisis or avert it if we had planned earlier than compared to, say, 2 or 3 months ago when we knew that the possible difficulties with WAPCO was going to happen? I mean, is it going to be more expensive now?
Definitely, we are going to pay more for not, planning well and to procure fuel on time. You see, now we have to bring in the cargoes under an emergency situation. And then emergency cargoes are expensive than cargoes that are free of such a situation. And so definitely we'll pay more for the cargo. The next is that Ben raised an issue. Outside the cargo, we also have to pay for idle plants. But if you had the cargoes in on time and we lost the supply of natural gas to these plants, they will just have to fall on the liquid fuels and we pay them for work done. But for now, the cargoes will come at a high cost and may delay and render some plants idle, yet we'll pay for the plants being idle. So this is other costs that we need to bear for not preparing adequately and on time.
That's an interesting perspective, but there are those who have already stipulated that, well, this WAPCO problem is supposed to last from January to somewhere February, right? I mean, mid-February. Yeah. This is almost like 3 weeks. How much damage will be done if we decide not to go through this emergency process, but rather put out a timetable for the 3 weeks so that we make sure we plan properly and not incur debt on an already debt-ridden sector?
So now we are looking at two options here. Either we get the cargo in on time and make sure that plants are running and we don't have doom so, or we accept that there is doom so. And so we plan our life, and there's a table in place to ensure that consumers have some form of comfort because they know how to plan their life with a timetable. I was looking at another option where, if it was possible to defer the plant maintenance by WACO in October to January, then possibly we could engage them to see the possibility of deferring it once again to allow us time to bring in the fuel and save ourselves from some additional cost and discomfort. However, these must go with some form of risk assessment to ensure that, look, we don't end up putting the infrastructure at risk because of, a habit of deferment of an exercise. Raymond, if you choose to defer changing your the oil in your car and fixing the air filters, at a point, your car may stall or stop at all. So you assess all these risks, and if it's possible, we defer the program. And so we need to engage directly WACO in this discussion. I'm not unsure whether the meeting that was had today, they were part of it, but if they were, good. If they weren't, they could still engage them to see the possibility of deferring the program and if it's safe for the integrity of the system.
Now, maybe I'll ask you, since you chair the Energy Committee or sector of AGI, already some are complaining that there's some form of power rationing happening. How much of some escalation will be visited on the people if we decide to relax and go through it and plan properly for the future? Mr. Jantua.
Raymond, I don't only think it's only residential clients that would suffer, but I think on the AGI side, businesses can suffer a lot. And once that happens, it affects people's incomes, it affects people's output, it affects people's cost, and it can increase cost for businesses. I believe that if WAPCO had put in a plan to peak in October, and they have deferred it to January, the integrity of the pipeline is key. And I think it will be challenging to go for another deferment. Look, we have to be very clear. If we need to do DUMSO or DUMSO comes, we have to be clear about it. Go ahead and do whatever maintenance needs to be done so that we do it once and for all. But Raymond, additionally, this particular committee that has been put in place, I don't think this committee should only look at this emergency, because if you read, and I'm not sure you have, but if you read the December report by the Energy Commission, it looks at 2025, the demands of natural gas, the demands for LFO, LCO, and LFO. It looks at all of that and puts a certain amount of money on there. It estimates $1.248 million just for gas alone. 97.5% is for the procurement of natural gas. The rest is for the ASCA plant where HFO is concerned. This particular committee, before the Minister of Energy is put in place, before the Energy Ministry is put in place, should also look going forward, once we are able to determine what we're going to do with this potential emergency, how we're going to get the finances. And for me, that is a major challenge, the finances, to make sure that we can cover for the coming year, 2025. It is very, very important. Now, to get people to make sure that they are covered has got to do with how we communicate.
Okay.
The last DUMSO, a lot of businesses on the AGI had challenges. And then you found out that, especially for things like sanitary towels and oil and things like that, imports started coming in because local companies couldn't produce. and that then goes to affect our own GDP and inflation and all that kind of stuff. So it has a cumulative effect if we do not do it right and do not plan properly. And for me, the planning and the communication is key. Getting the finance too is key, but I'm sure getting the finance, you'll be able to work something out on that score.
Gentlemen, I'm taking final words from you. Already, I'm hearing the indication from you that it's not just a committee that should come out today with an interim solution. There's also a bigger problem in the energy sector that ought to be dealt with. Ben, how huge is this scale and how surmountable is the problem, mindful of the 4-year period this government has?
Yeah, I don't know what the TOR of the committee was. If it was a temporary solution to avert the shutdown by WAPCO, then of course it's going to be a procurement prescription. How do you get fuel? Who do you engage to bring the fuel in? But on the broader scale of things, I think we have to look at how we sustainably fix the energy sector. Perhaps into the later parts of the month, we need to do a stakeholder consultation around how we address the energy sector situation, generation planning, making sure that we are bringing on efficient power plants, because there are new generation of power plants that when we talk about efficiency, it means that it will use lesser amount of fuel to generate a much more significant quantities of power. So we need to now move into new generation of GE power plants and Siemens power, and be able to deal with some of the old ones that we have. Either we have to retrofit them or abandon them altogether, so that we can sustainably move towards a more stable power system. But key on the agenda, if government cares to fix this problem, is to let ECG go, as far as I'm concerned. It's the private sector.
Do you sense that's on the table for this government?
That's what should be on the table if we really want to fix this problem sustainably. And I'm hoping that we won't continue to be dancing around the core issue of letting the distribution side go. That is the engine room. That is where the money is made.
Okay.
To be able to everybody else. And if we fail to do that, this conversation is not ending today.
Nana, we are in 2025. We purpose in our hearts to build a nuclear plant by 2030. We have not chosen even the technology and the country to help us build it as of today. Do we really have a robust sector that it's properly planned looking into the future?
Unfortunately, I would say no. Even for the nuclear power that will come, they expect it to come in to support our system
as base load
source. Governments have not shown any serious commitment to this nuclear. Currently, we have the nuclear power Ghana handling everything. Yet, Raymond, they take their salary, administrative costs and charges and support. They take it from either VRA or Power Authority, so they are not well resourced to act decisively and move the nuclear agenda forward. And so conversation must be had around this nuclear idea. But yes, if we need to be more self-reliant, then additional source of generation is equally important. But I'm more concerned about the elephant in the room.
Okay.
The one that makes the money and the one that creates the debts.
ECG.
That's the ECG. And I am forced to go with all sector players, including the thought of Ben, that we must go back and revisit the private sector participation arrangements, because the ECG has proven that it is unable to manage affairs well. We will need more funding to retool the distribution sector, the lines, the transformers, the capacitors, and every equipment in there. Do we have money to do that? The private sector may come in with some form of funding and support, and also the efficiency or competence that we so much desire. ECG must be taken through that private sector arrangement. it is not sustainable. It will kill the entire sector in the next few years if we still maintain it in its current form.
We're hoping that we would have John Jinapor, who is sitting in this crack team of experts, to find a solution to the impending danger. But hopefully in subsequent bulletins, we should be able to bring you perhaps programs that comes after that. What government has decided to do definitively in solving the problem. My name is Raymond Dakwa. This has been UPfront. Many thanks to you, gentlemen, for joining me tonight.